Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another edition of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. I'm posted up in my hotel room doing the day 2 review. I'm out here dressed like I'm going on Hodge, cuz. Look at me. Is it Iram? I'm in my Iram clothing. Fam, you know what? First things first, before I even go into the day 2 review, big up all the West Indies players. You know, big up any professional athlete. You see the state of my body right now? I feel like I just stood up in the hot sun from 11 o'clock through to 6:30, 84 overs of play. I feel like I've been through the mixer. I feel like I've been through the absolute ringer. And I didn't even hold a bat. I didn't even bowl any balls, nothing. And I feel like I'm absolutely finished out here. So all professional athletes, all the West Indies players, even when I cuss because I think you haven't done good, big up you lot. Big up you lot and your dedication to the cause. Because the last thing I want to do is move from this hotel room to go sit down in a cricket ground again. I am so tired, cuzzy. But you know what? As tired as I am, I'm absolutely up. Because West Indies are up. First good day, real good day. Not even good. Good doesn't do it justice. Outstanding day on the tour. There was always this kind of sense that the Beckenham game was a bit of a fet match and didn't provide the level of rigour that we needed going into Lords. And Lords, we performed like a team that hadn't got enough prep prior to that first test match at Lords. Several of the players looked like they were a bit undercooked. Several looked like they were a bit overawed by the whole experience. Remember, a lot of them are relatively inexperienced, not even relatively, are inexperienced at the international level. And we played like a team that wasn't used to the occasion, so to speak. Everything that was bad about Lords was the complete 180 opposite on day 2. At Trent Bridge. There was a lot of naysaying after day 1 where England posted 416, and I think people lost sight of the fact that we did take all 10 wickets. And what was quite interesting and instructive to me is that after day 1, Alistair Cook, I was reading up on some of the stuff overnight after day 1, and Alistair Cook had said that he felt that England were at least 100 runs. I think he said something like 80 to 100 runs too short, and he felt that they'd left runs out there. Now, that wasn't Alistair Cook saying that in hindsight after West Indies had a bat. He said that straight away after England had been dismissed for 416. He said, no, I think that's under par for this wicket. West Indies at the end of day 2 compiled 351 for 5. And if we're being truly honest, other than Kavem Hodge's dismissal, where he was pinned on his kind of back pad, umpire's call LBW, which was unlucky. Other than his dismissal, I think it was Chris Wilkes who got him. All the other 4 wickets that fell, you could say, were self-inflicted. So Kavem Hodge was the only one who I thought, you know what, you're unlucky, and that's not your fault, so to speak. And plus, you'd scored 120 runs. You've done your job, right? So let's go from the top. 351 for 5. Sorry. 351 for 5. So ultimately, the day started with Craig and Machel Louis putting on a 50-run partnership. I think it was 53 before the first wicket fell. And by the time Machel Louis fell, other than Mark Wood's spell, Wood came on in the 10th over and bowled a lot of heat. He clocked, I think, the highest speed he clocked at one point in the day, just look at my notes, was 97.1 miles per hour. But he bowled an extensive spell where he was consistently clocking 95 plus, and it got the crowd pumped up. It got the crowd riled up. Even me, I was looking at going, flipping hell, this is quick. Kavem Hodge at the post-play press conference said it was difficult out there to face Wood at that speed. Jason Holder certainly, when Wood came back for what must have been his 4th or 5th spell of the day, could barely put bat on ball against Mark Wood. Wood pinged Athanaze on his helmet. So it's weird because people will look at, so Wood's spell was 14.1 overs, none for 51, right? Didn't take a wicket, but was easily the pick of the bowlers, easily caused the most problems for the West Indies batters. But the point I'm making is we got through the spell. We got through his initial spell, and we got through all of his spells by hook or crook. So 53-run partnership was put up, and then Machel Louis fell for 21 to Shoaib Bashir. Totally innocuous delivery. And what people have said to me is the delivery before Machel fell, he'd skewed a shot through mid-wicket. I think he meant to put through the offside, and that went for 4 runs. So 4 kind of fortunate runs. Ball, he tried to deposit Machel Louis out of the ground for 6 and was caught by Harry Brooker. Was it long on? Yeah, I think it was at long on, caught by Harry Brooker at long on. And it felt like, and I tweeted at the time saying, was that shot inexperience or bad cricket? And most people responded going, Mash, it was both. It was both. But fundamentally, a lot of people in the press room were saying the assist goes to Mark Wood because they believe that Wood had put so much pressure on both Braithwaite and Louis in particular, in terms of not being able to score fluently off him, that when Bashir came on, they saw Bashir as, well, here's a chance for some easy runs. Went for the big shot, caught, gone, 53 for 1. Cool. Kurt McKenzie came in and fell six or 7 overs later for 11. Also, bowled Bashir, caught Stokes. I thought McKenzie's dismissal was worse than Louis'. McKenzie just toe-ended one. It was a bat up and catch. It was bat up and catch cricket. Toe-ended one to Stokes, who didn't even have to move at mid-on. And it was just awful cricket all round. Again, totally innocuous delivery from Bashir. And you see, when McKenzie got out, I can only tell this is verbatim what happened in the press box. Everybody, including myself and the one other fellow Caribbean journalist, did this. Oh my God, that's awful. That's what everyone did. Everyone in the press box recoiled back and went, that's rubbish. That's awful cricket. It was schoolboy. That's the only way to describe it. It was schoolboy cricket. It was the type of stuff you'd expect me to do, because I'm no good. You'd expect me to do bat up and catch and look like I don't belong out on the cricket field. Kirk's having a bad time of it. Duck, one and duck at Lords, and now a scratchy 11. I think he hit 2 fours. A scratchy 11 in the first innings at Trent Bridge. Obviously, he'll have another go at it in the second innings. This match looks quite well poised. It looks like it could even go to day 5, touch wood. But it wasn't good. It wasn't good. I'm not prescribing to any kind of viewpoint of drop this man, drop that man. I'm not going to go into that kind of talk. But what I will say is there are several people in regional cricket, people who properly follow regional cricket, and there are several people who don't follow regional cricket and just follow the West Indies when they play internationals, who have reservations about whether we have fast-tracked Kurt McKenzie into the test side before he's truly ready. Obviously, we hope Kurt can get through this. Everybody goes through a difficult patch. I mean, his first 3 international assignments have been India at home, Australia away, and now England away. It's as difficult as it gets, but Athanaze has had the same international assignments. Kavem Hodge had Australia away and now England. Machel Louis is debuting at England. Listen, if you jump into the fire, you have to try and find a way. You have to try and find a way to survive. And Kirk in Australia played counter-attacking cricket, and it worked on those fast, bouncy tracks. His brand of cricket, it ain't working in England right now, and he's going to have to try and find a way to find form. Somebody who did find a way to find form and has been catching pelters since the beginning of the tour. How many people remember Santoki and I after the first test were tweeting, and we kind of referenced it on several of the videos between the first and the second test, where it felt like everyone had decided, right, person we're going to cuss now is Craig Braithwaite. It's his turn. And what Santoki and I kept saying was, Braithwaite will work his way out of this because he's worked his way out of bad form before. He has 12 test match centuries for a reason. He will find a way to get out of this. In the preview for the second test, we said that fundamentally, what gives West Indies the best chance of posting a score 250 plus or just generally being competitive is how deep Craig can go. I asked for Craig to bat 150 balls. In the end, he only batted 72 balls. But crucially, for him, 72 balls, rather than it being 72 balls and he only scores 27 runs, which is usually in keeping with the kind of strike rate he hits at, he fell too shy of his 50, popped one up. It was Gus Atkinson got one to lift on him, and he popped one up to Ollie Pope. And I think it was a short leg. And Craig scored 48 runs. Now, I'm not here to say, oh, that's an amazing knock by Craig Braithwaite, and Craig Braithwaite is back. But what I will say is it was a far more fluent innings. He didn't look scratchy. He looked to be positive. And because he wasn't the first wicket to fall, there was just a sense of when he fell. So when he fell, it was 84 for 3. And don't get me wrong. I'm not going to try and pretend. In some senses, there would have been people going, uh-oh, we're into Athanaze and Hodge already. There could be a collapse at hand here. West Indies could be bundled all out for something in the region of 200 to 250. But at least Craig had given us, this is slim pickings, but please hear me out, people. At least Craig had given us some kind of start. I'm not going to, how dare I be the guy to turn my nose up at 48 runs. How dare I be the guy to turn my nose up at 48 runs? Craig's been down bad. He hasn't scored a 50 since. I think he scored 75 in the first or second test against India, right? So that's been so that means he hasn't. Wait, so hold on, India. Yeah, he scored a 50 against India. Didn't get any scores against Australia. Obviously, didn't score in the first test at Lords. 48. How do I phrase this? That 48 is a beginning to showing that his form might be coming back. So I'll give Craig some credit for that because that's 48 crucial runs. Okay. But like I say, at lunch, it was 89 for 3. And I went out, big up Natalia, big up Andrew, big up the CCP crew, anybody who I met, Julian, Clive, all of the people I met, CCP crew, Martin, Jay, and all the crew who I sat with in the stands in the post-tea session until Kavem got his century. Big up everybody who I met today who knows about CCP, was just there rallying for West Indies. You lot are why we all do this, right? And but at lunchtime, I was speaking to Natalia. Natalia's Dominican, and we both agreed at lunchtime. We were talking about, okay, can we post something here? And we both said, we just felt there was a feeling that Alec and Kavem could do something. Even when we struggled at Lords, I think Alec and Kavem, in that, if people remember, in that first innings at Lords, we were 44 for 3 or something like that. And Alec and Kavem put on a 44-run partnership. Yes, sounds like slim pickings, but in that 44-run partnership, they managed to just get rid of a bit of the drama that was going on at the time. And Natalia and I were talking, and we both agreed that Alec and Kavem are our best hope at laying a proper foundation now. And it just felt like they were going to do something, is all I can really describe it as. And they did something one hell and a half, right? 175-run partnership. I'm not sure where it ranks in terms of West Indies' best fourth wicket partnerships in England. It's probably up there or at Trent Bridge or whatever it might be. But the two Dominicans put on a display of what I call engine room cricket, making the tough runs in the tough situations. Kavem Hodge has got a lot of heart. He's got a lot of heart. He's had to wait an awful lot of time to get this chance for West Indies. People who don't remember, when we had that COVID tour to Bangladesh, I think it was in 2021, Kavem was called up. Remember, like 10 or 11 of the senior players said they're not touring, and they were given the right not to tour because of the pandemic. And Hodge was one of the ones who got that call up. If you go back and look at that picture when Rakeem Cornwall takes whatever wicket is. I swear it's Kavem Hodge who's jumping on his back or whatever it might be. So Hodge was there in Bangladesh, and it felt at the time like, okay, he's there now. He's there. He's in the selectors' thinkings. His chance must be coming soon, and he's had to wait. So that was 3 years ago. He's had to wait 3 years since then to really come back into the West Indies thinking again. Scored runs in the domestic championship this year. Scored runs in the warm-up game in Beckenham. So scored a big century in the domestic championship. There was 150 he scored. Can't remember against who. Scored runs in Beckenham in the tour game, and now has scored his maiden Test match century at Trent Bridge. Scored a 75 or something in Australia at the Gabba as well. Do you know what I like about Hodge? Kavem Hodge reminds me of someone like Brendan Nash. And if people think that's not the right reference point to use, give me another cricketer. But Hodge reminds me of Brendan Nash because he reminds me of one of those cricketers where it's like, I'm up for the challenge. I'm up for the fight. I'm not the prettiest batter. I don't score runs which make you think, wow, look how graceful he is at the wicket. But I'll score difficult runs, and I'll show the opposition that I'm not here to just give it away. I'm here to give a good account of myself. And the phrase that I used to George DeBell when I did the Ask George recording at the end of day 2 for the cricketer, I said that Kavem Hodge, and I'm going to stick to using this phrase, and if Kavem listens to this or anyone around Kavem listens to this, I hope you understand what I mean by it. He plays within his limitations, knows his strengths, knows his weaknesses, and doesn't try to play too far outside of that zone. I have a lot of time and a lot of respect for players who make the most of their ability, knowing what their strengths and weaknesses are, and don't try to become something that they're not. So big up Kavem, big up Dominica, big up West Indies, maiden Test match century, up. And he's such a nice guy as well. Not that that should matter, but he's one of the good guys. He's clearly one of the good guys. So big up Kavem. Listen, the celebrations in the stands when he made that century, we were up. We were up in the stands. Obviously, Alec fell 18 short of his century, and I know he was gutted. He fell for 82, again, outside the off stump. Nicked one off to Brook, who must have been second slip off the top of my head. And you could see the disappointment. We were behind the ball, behind his kind of just to the right of him. And you could see, you know, that thing when like they slump on their bat. 100 was there for the taking. But at the same time, even though Alec fell 18 short of his century, the main thing that went through my head was, Alec, hold your head up high. Because Alec needed that plus 50 knot, which just told him, I belong at this level. Because Alec has all the tools. Anyone who's been listening to CCP since day dot, you know that I've invested stocks in Alec Athanaze. We had him on the show back in December 2022. So what, 2.5 years ago, we had Alec Athanaze on the show. This was way before anybody knew who Alec Athanaze really was, you know. Outside of Dominica, people weren't talking too tough about Alec Athanaze. I had stocks in Alec Athanaze. I said, let's get this young man on the show because I can see with my eyes that this guy is good. Anyways, we spoke to him back then. He would have been like 23, mature young fellow. And 2.5 years later, this was the knock. This to me was a statement knock, not a daddy 100, but a statement knock, which just says, you see all that promise I've shown you lot so far, the kind of 40s and the 30s and the nice 20s. I'm better than that. I'm a guy that can accumulate runs in the engine room and build a total for the West Indies. So we have to big up Alec Athanaze as well. Big 175 run partnership. Best I've felt watching the West Indies live in a long time. Must point out Hodge was dropped on 16, but so what? Ollie Pope scored 120 something and he was dropped twice. You make your own luck, right? You get dropped on 16, he cashed in. Big up Hodge. And then lastly, so at the end of the day now, so when Hodge fell, obviously Holder had come in before that. Hodge fell when the score was 305 for 5, right? And obviously Josh came in. Now, before Hodge fell, though, Jason Holder played about 40 balls to score 9 runs. And Jason was struggling. I'm trying to find the right word. He was struggling out there. He was struggling to breathe, cuss. Like Mark Woods and whoever else was bowling at the other end were peppering him. He was playing Jason must have played and missed. I think I saw him play and miss at least 6 or 7 times. It might even have been more. Looked like he could barely put bat on ball. Got outside edges to balls which died on the slip fielders. Could barely get the ball off the square. But I say all that to say, by the close of play, Jason was 23 not out of 67 balls, having hit 3 fours, right? And somebody remarked in the press box, one of the English journalists remarked, well, I think when he got into the 20s, one of the English journalists, because I was back in the press box by this stage, and one of the English journalists said, this is one of the worst test match innings I've ever seen when Jason got into the 20s. And I clapped back immediately. I clapped back and I turned around and I said, but he's still there. And this is my thing. I couldn't give a damn how bad the innings looks. Were you able to grit it out? Were you able to survive and just find a way? There is a lot to be said for a cricketer who clearly isn't in good nick, so to speak, who can still grit it out, barely survive, but find a way to still be there at the close. So Jason needs to pump up his chest, because that was hard, difficult cricket for him. And he nudged and nurdled and played a few false shots, played and missed enough times, but still found a way to be there by the close of play, 23 not out. Josh De Silva joined him, was fluent, 35 balls, 32 runs, 7 fours. All Josh did was identify, this is where the gaps are, and I'm going to play some positive cricket. Quickly galloped his way to 32 not out, and Josh looked in. He did edge one. Was it dropped? Was Josh dropped? No, he wasn't dropped. He edged one wide of second slip, I think. So there was one false 4 in there. But generally speaking, Josh was fluent at the crease. So him and Jason have put on a partnership just shy of 50 runs. I think 45-run partnership at this point in time. And as things stand, as we go into day 3, West Indies is a 3-5-1 for 5. We trail by 65 runs, right? So everyone will have their own kind of target in mind here. We still have Kevin Sinclair's coming back, and Alzari Joseph, depending on what version of Alzari Joseph turns up. I hope it might, whether it's the cow lashing version or whether it's the guy who can actually play proper cricket shots and occupy the crease, we don't know. But what West Indies' target should be today is, first and foremost, first innings lead, because it's important on a psychological level to show England, not only have we come back and outplayed you, some will disagree with that, but I'm going to say we've outplayed them. Not only have we come back in this second test and outplayed you, but we're going to take a first innings lead and just let you know we're also better than you. And that all this Bazball thing, we ain't no little man out here where you can disrespect and people can write articles and say death of West Indies cricket again, and that why are we here and right? This team is heart. This team is heart, and I mentioned this in the preview. This team is heart, and this team has a belief in themselves. Right? Kavem Hodge said in the post-match conference, I asked him, one of the questions I asked him, I said, what was the talk between the first and second test after the crap performance at Lord's? And he was like, we stayed positive. We know that we're good players, and we knew that we could turn this around. So said, so done. So the first thing that we need to do and aim for on day 3, first innings lead. Establish that first on a psychological one. Phase 2, try and push it to at least a 50-run lead. That's my target. 50-run lead. So we're looking at West Indies trying to add effectively. So we want 4. Basically, we want West Indies to score another 100 runs minimum from the remaining 5. I still think it's a very good cricket pitch. I think Multi would have enjoyed himself if Multi was fit. I think he would have enjoyed himself and got some purchase out of this. But on the whole, I think this is a very good cricket wicket. Kavem said it's quite flat. So I think there's runs to be got. So I don't think it's out of the ordinary to say that we want West Indies to add another 100 runs. I don't think that's asking too much. 50-run first innings lead. Maybe we'll do more. But anyways, we'll lock in. People, I'm in my hotel room. Let me go get a fresh. Let me go hold a fresh, eat some food, and then go take in day 3. I'll be Machel St. Patrick here at one half the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. As ever, like, share, subscribe, road to 10K, comments below. Find us on all the social media handles, Twitter, Insta, Discord, Facebook, YouTube. I don't know what, all the where they all are. Just find us and we'll keep doing what we do.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.